Hello and welcome to our next lesson, which is going to deal about histograms. You will notice here I have a histogram that's going to talk about snake lengths. A histogram, as you can see, is something that looks very much like a bar graph. You will notice that we have something called frequencies at the bottom of our bar graph, which means we put them in groups. So we have here from 0 to 6, 7 to 13, 14 to 20, 21 to 27. So they're in groups. And if you look at this, these are actually a group of 6 numbers, 6 numbers, 6 numbers, and 6 numbers. On the side of our histogram, we have what we call our frequency. Our frequency is the amount or the number of. So for example, for snakes of 0 to 6 feet long, we have a total of 4 different kinds of snakes. 7 to 13 feet long looks like 3 snakes. 14 to 20, 1 snake, and 21 to 27, we have 2 snakes. All right, let's move on and look at another example of a histogram. So here I have the number of laps that people in a swimming class completed. Here are a number of laps. We have a frequency of an interval of 1 to 3, 11 people, 4 to 6 laps, 4 people, 7 to 9 laps, 0 people, and so forth. So if you notice, our number of laps started with a frequency of 1, whereas up here, we had a frequency length starting with 0. And because we started with 0, you will notice that the bar right here touches our line. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me show you. So somebody made here a frequency or a histogram for us. And the histogram shows the laps completed. We have here a number of laps. They're in these intervals listed on the bottom. The frequency shows the amount. Okay, they did not count by ones. If you notice, they decided to count by twos. You will also notice that there is a gap right here, and the reason there's a gap is because the interval doesn't start with a 0, it starts with a 1, and so you will have a little space here. The other thing that you need to notice is when you are listing your intervals, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, you need to make sure you don't skip something. You need to leave 7 to 9 on here. Even if 7 to 9 has a height of 0 laps, we still have to leave that bar empty. Okay? You will notice that there are no spaces. The bars are touching, except for where there is a 0 frequency. All right, so what I'd like for you to do is you're going to actually make a bar graph or histogram in either your notebook or you're going to need to get a piece of paper, and you're going to make your own histogram. Once you finish the histogram, you will show it to the teacher. You'll raise your hand. The teacher will let you look at it, and then you'll get to continue your video. So what I mean by that is you are going to look at this information right here, and you are going to make a histogram with this information. The information says the ages of people riding a roller coaster. So you have ages here. You have the data here, frequency of how many people in that age range. So what I would like for you to do is I want you to make a histogram that looks similar to this, but you're going to use these labels and these numbers. You're going to pause the video. My suggestion is you might want to count by twos, just like they did here with your frequency. Okay, so pause your video. Don't stop it. Just pause it. Make your histogram and then raise your hand to show the teacher so that you can continue pressing play on your video. All right, by this time you've made your histogram, you've showed it to the teacher, and you are ready to move on with your lesson. You will notice what we're going to look at now is a histogram that's already been made, and we're going to answer some questions regarding it. It says the histogram shows winning speeds at the Daytona 500. Well, here are speeds of the cars, miles per hour. We have from 120 to 179, you will notice that there's a little gap right here because we did not start at 0. Our frequency, you'll notice they decided to count by 4s for our frequency. So our first question says, which interval, okay, so make sure we know what this word here means, which interval contains the most data values? Well, an interval are these groups of numbers. And if I look, this bar here is the tallest. It has the most data. So when I would say which interval contains the most data values, I would say 150 to 159 is the interval that contains the most. Let's look at question B. B says, how many of the winning speeds are less than 140 miles per hour? 140 miles per hour is part of this interval here, and so that means it's going to be this starting at this line and up, but I want to know how many are less. So if this starts my 140, I need to look at these two bars. This bar here looks like it's about a 1, and this bar here looks like it's 8, so 8 plus 1 would be a total of 9. So we have 9 here. The last question says, how many of the winning speeds are at least 160 miles per hour? My 160 is here. If I'm saying that they're going at least 160, that means they have to be going 160 or higher or faster. So that means I'm going to look at these two bars here. So if I want to know what these two are, I'd add this. This looks like this is about an 8. And this one here looks like it's a little over the 4. Let's see how much farther it is. So I would say this bar is at the 8, and to me this bar is at 5. So this would be 8 plus 5, giving me a total of 13. How many of the winning speeds are at least 160 miles per hour? I would say that 13 of the speeds are. All right, the last sample we're going to look at actually is comparing two different data displays. We have here what we call the histogram, and right over here we have what we could call a circle graph. Some people call it a pie graph. The data shows how many push-ups students in a class completed for a physical fitness test. So right down here we have the number of push-ups, 0 to 9. Starts with 0, so up here, 0 to 9 push-ups, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, and so forth. And over here we have the number or the frequency, which would be the number of students that completed those amount of push-ups. We have the same thing right here. Same information is just displayed differently. Here we have a circle graph. This here says 40%. 40% of the students did 20 to 29 push-ups. 20% did 10 to 19, and so forth. So if you look at these two graphs, which data display do you think you will use to find how many students are in the class? You're correct. This is the histogram is the one we're going to use because the histogram actually tells me that 3 students did 3 push-ups. Here I have 5 students that did 10 to 19. Here I have 10 students that did 20 to 29. I have 6 students that did 30 to 39. And it looks like I only have 1 student that did a total of 40 to 49. If I add all of these numbers up, I can find out how many students are in my class. But if I look over here, you will notice that I can't find out the number of students that are in the class. All right, so if you look here at our circular pie graph, you will notice the percents for each thing. If I look at both of my data displays, which one of these data displays do you think we should use to describe the portion of the entire class that completed 30 to 39 push-ups? Well, here I can tell you that 6 students completed 30 to 39, but I want to know what portion of the class, what percentage of the class finished that many push-ups. A circle graph is going to tell me that information. It already tells me 24% of my class. That's not half of my class at all. So this would be better when I'm looking at portions compared to the whole class, whereas a histogram is going to give me exact numbers by reading the frequencies on the side. All right, now that we have finished going over the lesson, you can shut down your Chromebook. I'm sorry, not shut down your Chromebook. Go ahead and stop the video, and then your homework will be on Big Ideas Math. Once you finish that, you will also have an IXL assignment that you can practice working on for the rest of class period.